Pick it up. Pick it up.
Welcome back to the Forge. Today we're building death. And I don't mean that metaphorically or
rhetorically or poetically or theoretically or in any other fancy way. I'm death. Straight up.
Now if you go down to the description for a quick second, you'll see all the books I own at the time of recording. Now another quick note before we get started, I did see Tulak the Barbarian's video on the same character, and he's got a fantastic build over there. I highly recommend go watching it if you're more leaning on the caster side of things, more on the striking fear and using the fear as your weapon, which I don't think represents him in the movie well. It's definitely strong and definitely something a real life death would be capable of, but what we see in the movie is how martial oriented death is. So I took that idea and made a more martial character out of death. So we still got spellcasting, we still have the fear aspect, but most of our damages come from our sickles and our dual sickle thing, which I'm also going to follow Tulak's lead on and call it a glaive. If your DM is cool, he will let you build the actual scythe thing if you meet a craftsman at a local village or something. So, moving on, we're going to start with stats. Now going from the highest, so we're using standard point away. Keep in mind multi-classing if you want to roll. So starting from the highest, going down to the lowest, we're going to go strength, wisdom, constitution, charisma, dexterity, and intelligence in that order. Not that I think death is not dexterous or intelligent, it's just kind of not needed for this build. And the only reason I put charisma above dexterity is because 12 is at least a +1, and that's going to be helpful when we're making our intimidation checks. Always helpful to have. So our race is going to be the custom lineage race. Then I'm going to dub the Linkar as a play on the word lycanthrope, because death stands on 2 legs and he uses his paws as hands. He is kind of like a werewolf. Using this is going to be medium speed, unfortunate, but we are a base speed of 30. A little bit slower than a tabaxi, but oh well. And we're going to use our +2 to any one ability to put it into strength, making our strength 17. And the feature we're going to grab as part of our custom race is going to be Fey Touched, to increase our wisdom by 1, turning it out to 15. And then we're going to get the Misty Step spell as well as the Dissonant Whispers spell. So Dissonant Whispers is an instantaneous 60-foot range spell, and you whisper a discordant melody that only one creature of your choice within range can hear. Whistling. In the movie, it appears Puss is the only one able to hear the whistling, even when in that crowd. So, discordant melody, whistling, panic attack does damage. I think it works. We're going to take the Dark Vision trait because Dark Vision is good, 60 feet. And our 2 languages, common and honestly any languages are going to work here. I went with Celestial because death is kind of like a deity of some kind, so Celestial makes sense. Our background, we're going to choose Outlander. Our character left his Fey home in pursuit of, in my case, let's say becoming an actual death god. He left. So that's going to grant us another language in athletics and survival. Again, take any language that you want. I go with the offhand languages because you never know when your DM is going to get a little crafty with, what languages. So, I think here I would take Abyssal. Now onto class. Starting at level 1, we're actually going to start things off as a ranger. First level, we're going to get the Deft Explorer feature, which is going to get us canny at first level. So we're going to choose one of our skill proficiencies, and our proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check that we make using the chosen skill. Intimidation, if you can, and then you can also speak, read, and write 2 additional languages of choice. I went with Primordial and one other one, just to really throw a wrench in case your DM likes to think no one's going to choose those languages. Now, instead of a favorite enemy, we're going to go with the optional trait of favored foe. Death fights a lot of people. In the movie, he kind of only specifically fights Puss. So you could go with favorite enemy and just choose humanoid. I went with favored foe because I would imagine when Death is roaming and not fighting Puss. He's probably fighting someone or something else, which makes it so he's very adaptable, and your favorite foe feature is going to reflect that. So it replaces favorite enemy, which means anything that requires the favorite enemy feature you don't qualify anymore, which does suck, but it doesn't really harm this build. So, favorite foe. When you hit a creature with an attack roll, you can call on your mystical bond with nature to mark the target as your favorite enemy for 1 minute, or until you lose your concentration, as if you were concentrating on a spell. So for the first time on each of your turns that you hit the favorite enemy, you deal damage to it, including when you mark it. You can increase that damage by an extra d4, which will increase over time the more levels we take in Ranger. You can use this feature to mark a favorite enemy any number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So starting off at 2, and 1 minute is kind of a long time. So if you're in a big crowd, you can just mark the 2 biggest baddies. Moving on to level 2, we're going to go with our level 2 Ranger, so we're going to get our fighting style. 2-weapon fighting. Of course, we are dual-wielding sickles, which is why I went strength with the highest. So, when you engage in 2-weapon fighting, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack. You can use your bonus action now. Congratulations. We also get spell casting as part of a level 2 Ranger, so we get 2 known spells from the Ranger spell list. The 2 I chose, I went with Zephyr Strike and Hunter's Mark. Zephyr Strike, concentration up to 1 minute. You move like the wind. For the duration, your movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks, and once before the spell ends, you can give yourself advantage on 1 weapon attack roll on your turn. The attack deals an extra 1d8 force damage on a hit. Whether you hit or miss, your walking speed is increased by 30 feet till the end of the turn. Death seems to be able to get around when chasing Puss, so Zephyr Strike seemed like a really good way to kind of supplement our lack of speed from the race. Not to mention, Zephyr Strike is a really strong spell in general, and every time Death seems to fight Puss, he has some kind of easy way of connecting to his mark. He doesn't seem to miss. Now, Hunter's Mark kind of helps with the dual wielding portion. It's kind of another version of the favorite foe, but it's a spell, bonus action spell. So you can do extra damage with both sickles instead of just one. So bonus action, vocal concentration up to an hour. You choose a creature you can see within range and mystically mark it as your quarry. Until the spell ends, you deal an extra 1d6 damage to the target whenever you hit it with a weapon attack. And you have advantage on any perception or survival check you make to find it. And if the target drops to 0 hit points before the spell ends, you can use your bonus action on a subsequent turn of yours to mark a new creature. And when you cast this using a spell slot at 3rd or 4th level, you can maintain your concentration on the spell for up to 8 hours. When you use a spell slot at 5th level or higher, you maintain your concentration for up to 24 hours. Constant trekking. Must find El Gato. Moving on to level 3, we're going to continue down the Ranger line, and we're going to get our Primeval Awareness. Beginning at 3rd level, you can use your action to expend 1 Ranger spell slot to focus your awareness on the region around you. For 1 minute per level of the spell slot you expend, you can sense whether the following types of creatures are present within 1 mile of you, or within 6 miles if your favorite terrain, which we don't have. Aberrations, Celestials, Dragons, Elementals, Fae, Fiends, and Undead. I classify Puss as undead. You don't get to die 8 times and not be considered undead. So now, for our Ranger subclass, I went with Monster Slayer. I went heavily debated for Gloomstalker for theme, but Monster Slayer fits the overall role of the build a little bit better. And it's also not too far off when it comes to what Death is capable of. So, you also get Hunter Sense, and at 3rd level, you gain the ability to peer at a creature and magically discern how best to hurt it. As an action, choose 1 creature you can see within 60 feet of you. You immediately learn whether the creature has any damage immunities, resistances, or vulnerabilities, and what they are. Death is all-knowing, and so he knows exactly how close Puss was to dying. He knew his entire life story. It would not be too far of a stretch to think that he would guess or just know how to hurt Puss. And you can use this feature anytime it's equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once. And obviously regain them all in a long rest. So, and you also get Slayer's Prey. Starting at 3rd level, you can focus your ire on 1 foe, increasing the harm you inflict on it. As a bonus action, you designate 1 creature you can see within 60 feet of you as a target of this feature. The first time each turn that you hit that target with a weapon attack takes an extra 1d6 damage from the weapon. Comboing this with your Hunter's Mark spell or even the marking feature. You have a lot of ways to make sure things are continuously marked, even if you're going from combat to combat back to back. we are currently staring at, I believe, 3 or 4 times of marking something. Slayer's Prey is just another way of doing it to do extra damage, because sickles aren't exactly great at damage, but that doesn't mean we can't supplement more damage. Benefit lasts until you finish a long or short rest. It ends early if you designate a different creature. Then moving on to level 4, ability increase, and we're going to round our wisdom and strength to even numbers, so 18 and 16, strength 18, wisdom 16. Moving on to level 5, we're going to take our first level in Cleric and go with Death Domain. A little bit on the nose, I know, but it fits flavorfully, and we're not going to be here for very long either, so. We get the ability Reaper at first level. You learn 1 Necromancy cantrip of your choice from any spell list. When you cast a Necromancy cantrip that normally targets only 1 creature, the spell can instead target 2 creatures within range and within 5 feet of each other. We're going to take Toll of the Dead. You point at 1 or 2 creatures you can see within range. The sound of a bell fills the air around it for a moment. The target must succeed in a Wiz saving throw or take 1d8 necrotic damage. If the target is missing any of its hit points, it instead takes 1d12 necrotic damage. Spell increases by 1 die when you reach 5th level, 11th level, 17th level. We can reflavor the bell. It's not going to be a bell. It's going to be more whistling. Our whistling does more damage. Hooray. We also get the spellcasting ability from Cleric, so we get 3 cantrips, which I took Sake of Flame, Resistance, and Thaumaturgy. Sake of Flame, a flame-like radiance descends on a creature that you can exactly see within range. Target must succeed on a dex save throw or take 1d8 radiant damage. Target gains no benefit from cover from this saving throw. I don't really have a reason for this flavor-wise, so feel free to replace it if you wish. I just felt like it was a good spell to have for anything that's going to be at range, hidden behind cover. Just rather annoying. Resistance. You can touch 1 willing creature. Once before the spell ends, the target can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to 1 saving throw of its choice. It can roll the die before or after making the saving throw. The spell then ends. It would not be a stretch to think that Death can just magically give himself resistance to things, especially anything that's going to harm him, like Fireball. And then our last cantrip, Thaumaturgy. So you can manifest a minor wonder and sign of supernatural power within range. You can create one of the following magical effects within range: voice booms, cause a flame to flicker, harmless tremors, create an instantaneous sound that originates from a point of your choice within range. You instantaneously cause an unlocked door or window to fly open or slam shut, and you alter the appearance of your eyes for 1 minute. So 2 reasons here. Again, more whistling, but this one doesn't do damage. But this also allows you to kind of mess with your eyes and kind of give yourself more fear. Scare people at a bar or something. If you cast a spell multiple times, you can have 3 of its 1-minute effects active at a time, and you can dismiss such an effect as an action. So, you're finding the one person that you need to do. You make them hear your whistle off in the distance. Then they can look at you and see your gray, soulless eyes in the midst of a crowd as they try. Now, our Cleric spells, we get Wisdom plus our Wisdom modifier plus our Cleric level in spell slots. So we get 4 known spells. We're going to take Bless, Bane, Sanctuary, and Cure Wounds. Bless and Bane, we kind of know what they do. I use it a lot in builds, or I'm going to use it a lot in builds. So starting with Bless. Bless, up to 3 creatures you control. You bless them and give them advantage on all attack and saving rolls. Bane, up to 3 creatures of your choice that you can see within range must make a charisma saving throw. Whenever a target that fails this saving throw makes an attack roll or saving throw before the spell ends, they must roll a d4 and subtract. Can't have them not taking damage from your whistling now, can we? Sanctuary. You ward a creature within range against attack until the spell ends. Any creature who targets the warded creature with an attack or harmful spell must first make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature must choose a new spell, use a new target, or lose the attack or spell. A spell doesn't protect the warded creature from area of effects, such as Fireball. Damn it, Fireball. If the warded creature makes an attack, casts a spell that affects an enemy, or deals damage to another creature, the spell ends. So, being able to cast Sanctuary while that pesky little gato is trying to attack you with a rapier and a dagger, able to kind of just hold yourself off for a little bit, kind of nice. Moving on to Cure Wounds. A creature you touch gains a number of hit points equal to 1d8 plus spell casting ability modifier, still wisdom. Has no effect on undead or constructs. So, we get to heal at least a little bit, right? It's a little treat, you know? Level 6, we're going to take another level in Cleric, which is going to give us more spells. We're going to get Shield of Faith. A shimmering field appears and surrounds a creature of your choice within range, granting +2 to AC for the duration. Death wears nothing but a cloak in the movie, which I'm going to constitute as light armor, which means we don't get a lot. Shield of Faith allows you to kind of magically enchant it to get a little bit of better armor and still stay within flavor. We also get Channel Divinity, which we can use once per long rest. Starting at 2nd level, we can use Channel Divinity to destroy another creature's life force by touch. When we hit a creature with a melee attack, you can use Channel Divinity to deal extra necrotic damage to the target, and that damage deals 5 plus twice your cleric level. So we're going to only be able to do 9 damage, but that's still 9 damage on like a small creature or even a mini boss. And this is kind of where we end Cleric. There wasn't much left in the Cleric class that I needed. Moving on to Fighter now, we're going to get level 1 Fighter, which is going to grant us another fighting style, which we're going to take Great Weapon Fighting. Whenever you roll a 1 or 2 on damage die for an attack you make with a melee weapon that you are wielding with 2 hands, you can re-roll the die and you must use the new roll, even if the new roll is a 1 or a 2. The weapon must have the 2-handed or versatile property for you to gain the benefit. This is more when you start combining your sickles into a glaive. So that way you are just as effective with 2 weapons as you are with 1 big weapon. Level 1 fighters also get second wind. You have a limited well of stamina that you can draw on to protect yourself from harm. Basically, and on your turn you can use the bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. Once you use this feature, it's more healing. Healing is nice. We like to be able to heal, especially in the middle of combat. Going to level 8, we're going to take a 2nd level in a fighter where we're going to get Action Surge. Starting at 2nd level, you can push yourself beyond your normal limits for a moment. On your turn, you can take 1 additional action. I want to point that out. Action, not specifically an attack, which means we can use our action to cast Bless, then Action Surge, then either while dual wielding or using our glaive combination, be able to attack with advantage immediately. Really good feature fighters get. Going on to level 9, we're going to take a 3rd level in fighter, and we're going to take the martial archetype of Battle Master. And we're going to get 3 maneuvers of your choice: Riposte, Menacing Attack, and Disarming Attack. Riposte is when our creature misses you with a melee attack. You can use your reaction to expend 1 superiority die to make a melee weapon attack against this creature. If you hit, add your superiority die to the attack's damage roll. Menacing Attack, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to frighten the target. You add the proficient superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and the target must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, it is frightened of you until the end of your next turn. Causing fear in the middle of combat by showing how insanely menacing you are sounds like death to me. Not to mention, forcing your opponent to be afraid of you in the midst of combat just means easy attacks, especially when you're dual wielding and hitting multiple times when dual wielded. Disarming Attack, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to disarm the target, forcing it to drop 1 item of your choice that it is holding. You add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and the target must make a strength save throw. On a failed save, it drops the object you choose. The object lands at its feet. He disarmed Puss not once, but twice. Seems kinda good to me. You have 4 superiority die, which start off at d8s, and your maneuver saves are 8 plus your proficiency modifier, plus your strength, which is 18. Moving on to level 10, we're going to take our 4th level in Fighter and just max out our strength to 20. Now, moving on to level 11. We're going to take our 5th level in Ranger, and it's going to be Ranger from here on out. So 5th level Rangers get extra attack. So now we can have 2 attacks, Action Surge for an additional action. At level 11, we're able to cast a spell, attack 3 times, as long as we don't use our bonus action for something other than attacking with our offhand weapon. We're also going to get some new spells. We're going to get Pass Without a Trace, a Veil of Shadows, and Silence radiates from you, masking you and your companions from detection. So, we get a +10, so creatures you choose within 30 feet of you, including you, gets a +10 to stealth checks and can't be tracked except by magical means. Death was able to sneak around, and no one seemed to notice him other than Puss. This seems like a good way of sneaking around. We're also going to take Zone of Truth. You create a magical zone that guards against deception in a 15-foot radius sphere centered around a point of your choice. you can replace this spell with anything you want. I went with Zone of Truth for more outside of combat stuff. Now, you can just flavor it kind of like you're summoning some shadow things and causing panic attacks till they give you the information you want. Moving on to level 12, we're going to take our 6th level in Ranger, and we're going to just increase our favorite foe damage and extra terrain for Depth Explorer. Pretty kind of uneventful level. Level 13, we're going to take another level in Ranger, so we're 7 levels in Ranger. We get Supernatural Defense. At 7th level, you gain extra resilience against your prey's assaults on your mind and body. Whenever the target of your Slayer's prey forces you to make a saving throw, and whenever you make an ability check to escape the target's grapple, you get an additional d6. You can't be the most terrifying thing here if you're scared of something else. This makes it so you are less likely to be frightened by things, as well as it's just really good against some other than nasty monsters out there. At level 14, we're going to take an 8th level in Ranger, where we're going to get the Sentinel feature. With Sentinel, when you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, it becomes 0 speed, stops moving, and creatures provoke opportunity attacks from you even if they take the disengage action before leaving your reach, which is also really good. And when a creature within 5 feet of you makes an attack against a target other than you, and the target doesn't have this feat, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. Basically, death standing around, no one escapes. It's essentially what this feature lets us do. And then, I mean, it also has a side benefit. You can also help your party out, but death is usually a solo player anyways. You also get the feature Lands Slide. Starting at 8th level, moving through non-magical difficult terrain costs you no extra movement. You can also pass through non-magical plants without being slowed by them and without taking damage from them if they have thorns, spines, or similar hazards. Death can get around, and he can get around it quickly and efficiently and seamlessly. At 15th level, we're going to take our 9th level into Ranger, where we're going to get even more spells. We're going to grab the Magic Circle spell. So part of the Magic Circle spell is you're able to invert the effect. So instead of warding things off from outside, you can lock something inside. Kind of like the final moment in the movie where Death seems to put up the flame wall and keep everyone out and keep Puss in. I mean, either way it works. So you're basically forced them into a 1v1 combat situation, although it is a pretty big radius, so maybe it's a 4v1 combat situation with you and your party. Also gain I chose the spell Silence, so pesky casters can't dispel you anymore, which is really nice. Counterspell sucks. Moving on to 16th level, we're going to take our 10th level Ranger, and we're going to take the optional feature of Nature's Veil. You draw on the powers of nature to hide yourself from view briefly. As a bonus action, you can magically become invisible, along with any equipment you are wearing or carrying, until the start of your next turn. You use this feature a number of times, either a proficiency bonus, regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. More ways of sneaking around. It's good for when you're sneaking around trying to hunt your prey that may or may not have abused their last life. 17th level, we're going to take our 11th level in Ranger. Magic User's Nemesis feature. At 11th level, you gain the ability to thwart someone else's magic. When you see a creature casting a spell or teleporting within 60 feet of you, you can use your reaction to try and magically foil it. That creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC, or its spell or teleport fails and is wasted. Once you use the feature, you can use it again till you rest. Cool. That feature is counterspell, but with no verbal component. So you can cast your Zone of Silence, and if they try and silent cast like a sorcerer, use this feature, they will not be able to escape. There is no escaping death. This is a way of making sure not even magic can save them. We'll also get another spell. We're going to take Ashradon's Stride. A billowing flames of a dragon blast from your feet, granting explosive speed. For the duration, increase your speed by 20. We are fast. Really fast. And you don't provoke opportunity attacks. When you move within 5 feet of a creature or an object that isn't being worn or carried, it takes 1d6 fire damage from your trail of heat. A creature or object can take this damage only once during a turn. You can choose any spell you want. I chose this one because it sounded really good, sounded cool, and if you really want to, you can kind of use this as your flame circle of combat, if you want. Moving on to 18th level, we're going to take our 12th level in Ranger, and we're going to take the Tough feature. Our HP has been lacking this entire time. More HP, that's all it is. You could also increase your wisdom here if you so want for better casting ability, or you can increase your constitution for more health. I went with Tough because you just get more HP overall like that. 19th level, we're going to take our 13th level ranger, we're going to get new spell, and it's going to be a locate creature spell. Basically, you're going to describe what you're looking for, and the spell is going to try and tell you where it is as long as it's within 1,000 feet of you. Death has a way of finding you, and always will have a way of finding you. Doesn't matter how far you run, you pesky little cat. And then finally, the 20th level. We're going to take our final level as a 14th level ranger, and we're going to get the vanish feature. Starting at 14th level, you can use the hide action as a bonus action on your turn. Also, you can't be tracked by non-magical means unless you choose to leave a trail. And then our favorite foe die goes up to a D8. Alright, now that the build is over with, let's go some perks. It's a versatile caster fighter build, I feel like. Mostly super on theme. It's probably really close to what you kind of see with some little extra in there. A lot of the spells are just self-buffing, and the ones you're going to be using most often are bonus actions. So you can buff, then attack. And then with action surge and multi-attack, you're buffing, attacking, surging, and attacking again. There's a whole lot of easy ways out, especially when you have the ability to cast, then attack. So some of the negatives is there's no Warcaster feature, which makes it really hard for you to cast your spells during combat if you are dual wielding, since you need an open hand to cast most of your spells, and a lot of your spells are probably not going to be cast outside of combat. As long as you don't draw your sickles immediately, you can buff yourself before attacking. But if you can sneak Warcaster into this build, please do. It is invaluable. You can also probably talk to your DM about getting one of your sickles to become your spell focus as a caster, which is something I would try and advocate for just because it makes the build work better. On top of, it's kind of cool thinking about how Death himself would use his sickles as a magic conduit, almost like they're enchanted weapons. And another thing is dexterity is kind of low, so AC is pretty hindered without support. Instead of the tough feature, you could bump your AC, or you could take a feature that allows you to wear heavier armor if you're not worried about like big flavor things. So I went with tough because, you can't die if you just have more HP. So with most builds, there are possible side changes for either damage or theme. Like I said earlier, I consider Gloomstalker Ranger level 3 features are on theme and function, but the later levels just don't fit thematically, and Monster Slayer's later levels fit more thematically than Gloomstalker, and that's kind of the only reasons. The later levels were just better for the overall build. Gloomstalker is more about, stalking and hiding. Death is more on the theatrical side of things, so slaying monsters, pretty theatrical. And, you can always choose different races. You could reskin some of the existing races for more flavor, or for more specified race features. I strongly consider just reskinning the Tabaxi to be more wolf-like, to have wall climb, as well as a higher movement speed. Because they're both animalistic, it would have been pretty easy, and then just use the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything sub-feature where you can move your bonuses around, which is something I heavily advocate for too. The only downside to doing that is you don't get your Fate Touch, so you kind of lose out on one of your ways of using the whistle as a damaging spell, which is very unfortunate, but if you want more speed, you can do more speed. And again, builds can always be improved with magical items and or weapons. The list will kind of largely be the same, so I'm going to opt to just point you back to the original video where I built my character Valcan. And it's just going to run the same. Your tattoos, enchanted armor, blah 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 blah. And one side note I want to go over is, I know despite being a dual wielding character, I didn't take the dual wielding feature. The only benefit you really get out of it would be the +1 AC, which, 1 point could be a difference between life and death, but when it came to other features I was looking at, I feel like dual wielder just wasn't there in terms of necessity. You get your damage, you have your casting, and especially if you're going to be blessing and baning a lot, getting hit doesn't seem likely, especially if you're going to wear some good armor and just flavor it up. That is death. Please leave any ideas for future characters in the comments, maybe even suggestions for even this build, and I may even revisit it one day. But overall, I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.